Bill Gates said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." Story 1. One of my favorite stories from my youth was the tale of the man who was too lazy to fail. I got fed up with handwriting itemized suborders at work, so I set up a spreadsheet that you could just fill out. Then I got tired of having more than one program open and not being able to search within and among those order sheets, at least not automatically or easily. So I'm having our FileMaker guy integrate it into our greater ordering and invoicing system. I was frustrated at the pointlessness of sorting a giant pile of paper invoices from an unpaid stack to a paid stack every month, so I just used the accounting software to keep track. I became so irritated with having to fill out a multi-page printed spreadsheet for every single order, sometimes just one item, 2 pages in, and frequently there would be those pesky itemized suborders, that I condensed the items into most used, put them all on one easy-to-read sheet, and encouraged my coworker to simply write out the more uncommon items at the bottom. Basically, I hate busy work, and paper invariably leads to busy work. I have tried to reduce the use of paper in our office, but have not been entirely successful. We have to have written order forms available because sometimes the orders are coming too fast to be able to type it all quickly and correctly, and have to keep some paper records for things like organic, FDA, and USDA audits. But all in all, I'd say my absolute hatred of filing has reduced busy work here by at least half. Story 2. At work, I go through parts and apply 2 different kinds of tape and 2 different kinds of weave. I have finally got the rhythm down, and now I do each part individually and apply everything at once. Everyone else goes through an entire order, just applying tape, then goes through it again to do the weave. I asked to use the big table in the back of the shop and just put all the tape and weave tools there, and do the parts all at once. Normal rate for an 8-hour shift is $1,200, but I can manage $1,800 in a day, going at a nice steady pace. Edit. I can get $1,800 going at a steady pace. I've done it before, but I usually don't. Most days I go slow and relax, purposefully, only making $1,300 to $1,350 or so in parts. It's just enough over rate to get my incentive bonus. And thanks to being a hard and fast worker, the uppers leave me alone at my big table in the back. They look the other way when I have an earbud in one ear, and they don't notice that I scroll the internet or read a lot. I can't say what products we make, they're too recognizable, and Googling it would reveal where I work and live. Story 3. I don't know if this is a true story, but it kind of fits your request. There was a manufacturing plant that made toothpaste. One year, for some reason, there ended up being an unusually high number of empty boxes being shipped out. So in order to stop that from happening, the head of the company hired a couple engineers to develop a system to catch any empty boxes so they didn't get shipped with the boxes that actually had the toothpaste tubes in them. The engineers developed a system that if the box weighed below a certain amount, the system would stop and a worker would have to go remove the box and start everything up again. The person in charge loved the idea and implemented it immediately. And right from the get-go, the number of empty boxes shipped dropped to near zero. The head of the company wanted to go see the system in action, so he went and visited the plant one day and noticed a huge fan right by the assembly line. Very confused, as it wasn't hot, he asked the plant manager why the fan was there. The plant manager said the workers were tired of stopping what they were doing to remove an empty box, so they just hooked up a fan to blow the empty boxes off the scale before the system recognized it was empty and shut everything off. So laziness led to a more efficient and cost-effective plan. Story 4. My ex-boss gave me an Excel sheet, 124,000 rows Excel sheet. Had all the company customer data, per row, twice. In some of those duplicates, there was an error. She needed me to go over the list one row by row to check for mistakes and mark all the faulty entries I could find, through 124,000 rows. She wanted me to do that using the arrow down key and my mouse. I thanked her, I sat down, invested half an hour into Google, copy-pasted some parts of this formula, then some parts of that. Finally, I'd figured out the formula. I double-clicked the tiny rectangle so that the formula gets applied on all rows. Worked like a charm. I stood up, got myself a coffee, and talked to some colleagues. Then I went to my boss. She had anticipated that I would need 3 days for this task. When I was back less than an hour later, she thought I hadn't understood the task, or maybe had a follow-up question. I will never forget the expression on her face when I told her I was done. There were 6 faulty entries. A year and a half later, I enrolled into computer science at university, where I will finish my undergrad this summer. Story 5. I knew a guy who had a low-level data reporting job. He had several daily and weekly work responsibilities, including a bunch of reports that needed quite a bit of tweaking from raw data to finished product. But like I said, low level. We didn't find out until way later, but he had set up macros for each of his major responsibilities where he could. Once set up, he'd just run the macros to do his work, but then he'd smartly hold off on delivering the reports until just a little before the deadlines. He'd hit every assignment and was seen as reliable. He also would complain about the workload, so people would leave him with that work. I doubt he did a full hour of work a day after he set up what he did. Eventually, he left the job for one with better pay, but dang, did he work lazy. Also, he was smart not to reveal until the end, because he had told them about it, he would have gotten a pat on the back and would have been given a whole other workload, on top of maintaining those macros. Dude milked the job, not the other way around. Story 6. Back in high school, a lot of kids used to walk through this park to get home or to go to school. A portion of the path went into the woods because it was just quicker than walking the actual trail. At one point in the walk through the woods, you had to go up this small but tedious hill. Nothing major, but it took like 10 seconds of hard work to go up it. You couldn't go around because one side was a small cliff to the creek below, and the other side had dense trees. One summer, a bunch of us got together and decided to just dig through that hill to make it flat. It took like 14 of us 3 good days to get through it. It was a hard 3 days, but it was definitely worth it. Saved 10 seconds of hill climbing every morning and afternoon, 150 plus days of the year, and it wasn't just us, but hundreds of other kids who had the same party every day. Sometimes you need to put in a lot of work so your future selves can enjoy the easy way out. Story 7. When I worked in a graphics design studio as an intern, they mostly had me practice and do some basic stuff their head designers were too busy to do. One was a real estate ad. It had a few basic templates, but it was all kinds of scatterbrained. I would spend 5 to 10 minutes trying to find the right layer for all the pictures and had to mess with way too much. So I made copies of the files and made one for each template. I labeled everything, made it so the images on top of each other wouldn't clip into the lower ones like the previous did, and so on. You could be in and out of the template in 2 to 3 minutes. Showed my boss the difference, and he had this face of, oh, well, poop. He said the next day that if I was a graduate, he'd hire me, because I was better than the people sending applications in. In short, I made an overly complicated and unorganized thing the opposite, and my boss was actually sad he couldn't hire me. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 8. Every year in the Canadian winter, power lines would fail due to the weight of the snow. It took many days to build up enough to break a line, so they employed a team to walk the routes and shake the poles to loosen the snow. One day they saw a bear shaking the poles and realized that if they could get the bear to do it, they wouldn't need to walk the route. So they gave one guy a bucket of honey, and he'd walk the route painting the sides of the poles with honey to attract the bears. It worked for a few more years, but this still takes a lot of time to do. So then they had the idea of flying a helicopter along the route with a trained sniper with honey paintballs that he'd shoot the poles with. On its maiden flight, the helicopter passed the lines, and the downdraft blew away all of the snow. The flights continued to this day, but without the sniper. Story 9. An older company had a person dedicated to data entry, which boiled down to copying and pasting portions of data from text files into spreadsheets and formatting into a report. The person originally doing this job spent a full 40-plus hours a week doing it, but was not very computer literate. When they retired, the company hired someone with actual skills. The new hire convinced management to let her work remotely after getting up to speed on the job. The first week at home was spent automating the entire job. The remainder of their multi-year tenure with the company was spent doing whatever they wanted, save the 10 to 15 minutes weekly to run their program and to answer the odd email here and there, all while getting paid full salary and benefits. They actually had to add in a few errors now and then to make it seem realistic. Story 10. I have a massive exercise to do at our year-end accountancy. My work previously got checked by another manager who spent over 3 weeks going over the data. Eventually, she got shifted to another department, and that workload fell on me. Basically, self-audit and then presenting the data to the actual auditors. My previous manager was absolutely doo-doo at Excel. I didn't let on, but I did all the audit on a separate file using simple, but out-of-the-way formulas. Not only did I reduce the task from 3 weeks to basically real-time checks, no time, but when I was told that I have to perform that exercise every month, my job became a doddle. I didn't let on that everything was automated by sum ifs, indexing, max values, and range checks. Living the dream. Story 11. I work for a huge company. A huge company. That said, as management are all about 40 plus years old, anyone who can use a computer for more than Word and writing a letter is deemed a computer geek. Official title. Usually data checking consists of having one Excel spreadsheet on one screen, and on a second screen, which has only just become a thing, it's a good old Control F to find the linked data to check. VLOOKUP has literally cut my workload down from a week's work to 10 minutes. I'm not telling them. Compliance and other managers on an equal footing to me all just think I'm very particular and make a low amount of errors. COVID lockdown has meant I'm working from home, and I'm literally doing a 1 to 2 day week. Story 12. When Carl Friedrich Gauss, the famous German mathematician and physicist, was in elementary school around 1784, his class was assigned the busy work task of adding all the numbers from 1 to 100, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and so on. This usually kept the class quiet for half an hour or so. 7-year-old Carl was sitting quietly with the correct answer, 5,050, while the rest of the class was just starting. So the surprised teacher asked him how he came up with the solution. He replied that he added 1 and 100 and got 101. Then he added 2 and 99 and got 101. 3 plus 98 equals 101, and so on. He realized there was a pattern of 50 pairs of numbers, with each pair adding up to 101, and 50 times 101 equals 5,050. Story 13. Years ago, as a student, I got a job stocking shelves. Guys were carrying the heavy boxes, put them on the floor, and bend each time to pick up the items to put on the shelves. I was maybe a light 100-pound woman, and carrying the boxes was just killing me physically. So one day I had an idea. I put the box on an old desk chair and rolled it around. No more carrying and no more bending. Funny thing is that instead of doing the same thing, most of the guys called me lazy and kept carrying the heavy boxes, just to prove how strong they were. Now they have special rolling carts to do the job. Story 14. My girlfriend will kill me for this, but screw it. I hate taking a finished toilet paper roll downstairs to throw it out. Me just leaving the empty roll in the bathroom annoys the crap out of my girlfriend, so I developed a strategy where, when there was only a few sheets left, I'd start using sheets from a new roll and leave the old roll with the sheets still on it. That way she'd always be the one to finish the roll and have to take the empty one downstairs. For people asking why I don't just use the bathroom rubbish bin, we recycle our cardboard. Story 15. When Peter the Great was building St. Petersburg, there was a huge boulder needed to be removed as it was in the way of the road. Lots of contractors tendered for the job. They would use explosives to start, smash it into smaller pieces using sledgehammers, and then cart them away. A local peasant also put in an offer for half the price. They gave him the job. He and a few friends dug a large hole next to it, took away the excess earth, tipped the boulder in, and covered it up with the remaining earth. Story 16. I worked goods in for an aircraft manufacturer at a summer job at university. Parts would arrive, we'd open them and key in all the details into a terminal. That bit was long-winded. I discovered the terminal keyboard has assignable shortcuts and set up a bunch of them for all the boilerplate, such that keying in an item was about 6 keystrokes. Saved myself and my workmate hours every day, which we would spend pranking each other, other warehouse staff, and staff at other sites. Story 17. Me. I automate stuff all the time at work to make daily routine jobs more easy. I write manuals with screenshots with arrows indicating where to click or where to fill in what. Whenever I write a manual, I assume that whoever reads it is a complete idiot, so that whenever customers call for the same questions again, I just send them to the online manual I created. No need to type it out again by email or explain it again by phone. Story 18. I'm doing it right now. Automated data cleaning in Python. My coworkers don't know about it, so something that takes me 10 minutes at most takes 2 hours. For everyone who says I should share my code, I have. I even set up a private GitHub space for my team. Some have taken it up, but others, including management, do not like it. I think they feel a little threatened. Story 19. My brother gave my oldest nephew $10 a week if he did all his chores without needing to be told or complaining. One day he gets home early from work and sees the neighbor kid toss his bag in the trash. He asks him what he's doing, and the kid says he gets $5 a week to take care of a few chores. My nephew outsourced his chores. Story 20. I was invited to my friend's yearly apple picking. It was a full day of apples and kids and filling a truck for cider. I'm lazy and suggested we make the process more efficient with tarps on the ground. We managed in 2 hours what historically took all day. We didn't even get to the picnic lunch. Essentially, I ruined apple picking. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.